we will be covering and discussing today. So hopefully there won't be any shocks about what we'll be doing today. I do plan to pick up where we left off with the Malcolm X text, Learning to Read. We're going to have opportunity today in class to complete a summary writing exercise. So we'll talk about that. But before we do, I want to share something with you all. Give me just 1 second. Somehow I closed out of Brightspace. Let me pull it back up. So are you guys finding my Brightspace announcements helpful? Look, that's my way of kind of asking in a roundabout way. Are we reading the Brightspace announcements as they come in?
Yes.
Okay, good. I always worry. I'm always like, am I writing too much? Is this going to be too much for them to consider? So good. I'm glad you guys are staying on top of that. It is the best way to know in real time what we're working on or what you may need to be focusing on in the modules. So I know last time that we spoke, students, when we were discussing modules, we talked about ways of kind of making those modules a little more effective. So I want to show you guys what changes I went in and added to our week 3 module that I think will help students stay a little bit more engaged. It'll also help students manage or track the assignments in the modules. And since the first week grades, or what we worked on those first 2 weeks of class, has now been posted. Anyone who may feel like you kind of dropped the ball those first few weeks, but definitely want to redeem yourselves or to get on the right track, it all begins with how you are managing the modules. So let me share my screen with you guys and show you the new adjustments, if you will, in terms of making these modules more user-friendly. Okay, so you guys may have gone in and seen module 3 already. Have we gone in and checked that out already, you guys?
Yes.
Okay, so let me show you what I added. Let me go to it from here. And let me change my view to students, so you guys I'll be looking at it exact same way that you are seeing it on your screens. All right. So if I come here to content, and let me get out of this. Go to week 2. So, and I'm sorry for not remembering the name of the student who brought this up, but on Tuesday when we were last together, a student had brought up that even if they go into the modules, sometimes it'll say that you completed it, even though you may not actually completed it. Maybe you didn't read everything that was in the module, and that can sometimes be a little misleading. So you guys will see here that when you look at your modules, if you open it up, it's going to automatically check that module. So that means you did not have to read it. You maybe just wanted to click on it to maybe see how long it was. It will automatically check it as complete. So this can sometimes be a little bit misleading. What I added, let me go here to module 3. What I added here in module 3 is I added a checklist. So this should say week 3 checklist, but I'll go in and correct it. You see here at the checklist, and it gives instructions. It says complete the readings, view the videos, and study the information on summary writing and thesis development. Use this checklist to stay on track. So what I will be doing is every weekly module, not only will you guys find the documents, you'll also find a checklist attached. So the documents is kind of this good space for you to get a good look at what we will be covering that week, but the checklist is what will help you manage the assignment. So let me show you when you click on the checklist. So for the checklist, it outlines each task. Let me turn my spotlight on. So you see here how it outlines each task. So everything that was in the module, you'll see it here. But now it gives you a little bit more instruction about that assignment, and it also allows you to check it off as you are completing it. So let's say you have completed reading the text by Malcolm X. You have also annotated it. So the way that you would manage the checklist is you would just check it off as completed. So that's helping you to stay on track. So you could always come back to your checklist, and you get this brief blurb up here. 20% of the module is complete. So you get that blurb, lets you know about how many of the assignments are complete, but it also allows you to go through a checklist. Let me make sure I've done everything that is required for this weekly module. So one thing that I pointed out in the announcement is that today we're going to have a summary writing exercise, based on that Malcolm X text. So when we talk to each other on Tuesday, it would get confusing sometimes when I would tell students you have an assignment, but a student may not know, do I turn that into you on email? Do I submit that via Brightspace? The checklist is really useful because it gives you that specific information. So here on the summary writing exercise, I give you the instructions using your notes and annotations, summarize the article based on the guidelines covered in class. And then you click here on the link, and it takes you to where you should be submitting this assignment. So you don't have to kind of determine, what do I do when I'm done with it? Where should I send it? It tells you exactly where it goes. So here is the summary instructions, and then you would be submitting it to assignment. So that link in the checklist brings you right to submission. So it tells you, type it out. Once you save it, you would come here to upload it. Okay, so it gives all of that information there. Let me go back out.
Is that assignment like in class or like on your free time or?
Oh no, that assignment is going to be in class today. So we'll have an opportunity for me to kind of really walk you through it in real time too. Okay, but in general, sometimes it may be an in-class assignment. Sometimes it may be a homework assignment. But I think I tried to, that first week of class, tell you guys most of the work that you'll do assignment-wise will be, I attempt to make it in class so that you guys can get any questions that you may have answered in real time. You can get the clarification that you need. So the majority of assignments will take place in class. So that's why when you look at your modules, you want to make sure you're reading everything that's there, because when you then come to class, the instruction, the assignments will all be based on that information. So you guys see that here. Let me go back to the checklist. Oh, it's not letting me. Oh, yes, it did. Okay, good. So you guys see that there. I also added another element of the module where, since I'm asking you to write a summary, I give a summary example. So you get to look at an example of what a summary should look like based on the criteria that we discussed in class. So we're going to talk about this today, you guys. But let's say, for instance, you missed today's class and you wanted to still get an opportunity to turn in that assignment. Your checklist is making sure that it is not missed, okay? So you still, even if you didn't, even if you weren't in class to complete it, you will still have the opportunity to submit that. Today, we're also going to talk about the thesis study packet. So we'll cover that a bit later. In Tuesday's class, we looked at the basic essay video, so you guys have that here. But for each element in the module, the checklist helps us to, just kind of keep that information organized. You're not confused about what you should be doing. You're not confused about how to submit it. And even more, the checklist gives you that information. So here you see right here, it says task. You have completed 1 of 5 checklist items. So this lets me know there's more work that I need to make sure I am completing. Okay. So moving forward, every module will be reinforced with a checklist to kind of help keep students accountable and also keep them on track with what is covered week by week, okay? Did you guys have any questions on this? And you'll see that as soon as you complete them, you'll just come in, you'll check it off, and this will allow you to, here, let me refresh. This will allow you to stay on top of those assignments. So you see there, now I come down and says you've completed 3 of the checklist. So this is just useful for managing those assignments. All right, so did you guys have any questions on this? Module, checklist, are we all clear on where to find these things?
Yes.
Okay, it'll be included in every module moving forward. And as you know, discussed on Tuesday and those first days of class, the modules are what we're using to gauge student participation, active pursuit. So this is what I have to go on in. Is the student present? Has the student been participating and engaged? So you really want to make sure that you are utilizing not only the modules, but the checklist to help make sure you're not missing anything. All right. So with that, let me go back out. First, let me. So as indicated in the announcement, you guys know that today, the main thing that we were doing is wrapping up our discussion on Malcolm X Learning to Read. Well, not wrapping it up, but digging a little bit deeper into the discussion. But before we do that, I want to open up with the expectation of the summary assignment. This is something that I added. And before we really get into a vigorous discussion on the text, I want to first understand or assess your comprehension of the text. So the usefulness of summary writing is that it really gets to the heart of, did the student comprehend the text? Because as we learned in class, let me stop share for just a second. As we learned in class, the summary identifies the author's main idea and key points. So I want you guys to all right now to get used to this idea of writing a summary based on the text you read in this class. Moving forward, almost every text that we read in the class will require students to summarize it. And again, that is a test of comprehension. So we're going to get our first run through with that today. But what I wanted to show you is the document that'll help us better understand this. So what I added in the week 3 module is a summary example. So Tuesday, we spent the first half of class really talking about the summary criteria, right? Do you guys remember that? We looked at the summary rubric and looked at the requirements, if you will, for writing an effective summary. What do you guys remember about that? What do we remember about our discussion on summary in this class?
When you're writing a summary, you want to identify what type of text it is.
Okay, good. You remember that, right? So that's one thing, right? What type of text? We did talk about the importance of that. What else?
A thesis.
Okay, we know.
Key points
Key points. All right, good. What else?
You want to make sure you have an intro, a body, and a conclusion.
Okay, now that's good. Intro, body, conclusion. We can look at that in relation to summary, but the intro, body, conclusion was more so for the essay writing. And I know that that may have been somewhat confusing yesterday, but I'm actually glad that you brought it up. We can consider that structure of intro, body, and conclusion in writing a summary. However, the essay and summary is different in several ways. An essay will normally be multi-paragraph. Okay, so one thing about an essay is it's normally multi-paragraph, while a summary is normally brief and short. It is normally one paragraph in length. So one thing we know about an essay is significantly longer, right? We also know that with the summary, you only zero in on the author's key points. So somebody had pointed out thesis, main idea, key points. That is the recipe for a summary. You add author's name, title of text, type of text. You then summarize the author's main idea and key points. So we know with summary, you are dealing with the details of the text only. Well, that's different from an essay, because in an essay takes, let's say, maybe the topic or a particular text, but then it adds to that your opinion or your ideas about that text. So a summary, it tends to be opinion driven. That is in stark contrast to a summary, because a summary should eliminate all opinion. We learned that when you write a summary, you drop your judgment, you drop any personal ideas or opinion that you have about that text. So for a summary, you remain objective, while an essay is almost always subjective. So you get to insert yourself in an essay. You get to talk about whether you agree or disagree. You get to bring in your perspective and ideals. Whereas in a summary, you do not insert yourself at all. So I want you guys to try to start to organize summary in one, we'll say in one column, and organize essay in another column. Even though they both require comprehension of the topic or what you're reading, even though they both follow a particular structure, know that when you have a summary assignment, a switch should check in your mind that, okay, I'm writing a summary, so I'm only dealing with the text. I am being brief. I'm making sure that I only pinpoint the author's main ideas and key points. When you guys are given an essay assignment, there should be a switch in your mind that goes, okay, now I'm writing a multi-paragraph text. I not only am talking about what I may have read or a particular topic, I'm also adding to that my opinion, my ideas. So again, just how we organize or think about the two, start to be mindful that there are clearly different expectations in writing a summary and in writing a essay. Okay, so good. Let me share my screen with you guys really quickly, because before we start talking about Malcolm X, we are going to take a brief moment to summarize, using our notes and our annotations, write a brief summary about that text. But before I ask you guys to do that, I want to quickly review what we talked about on Tuesday in terms of the working parts of our summary. So one thing we talked about that I mentioned just a moment ago is your summary is brief. Even if it is a 200-page book, normally when that text is summarized, it's normally a brief summary. It is normally no longer than a paragraph, okay? So think about what you know about paragraphs. We've talked already in this class that paragraphs are normally about 5 to 7 sentences. So you definitely don't want to shortchange your summary. So summaries, we know, again, are brief. We know that when opening or introducing a summary, you always will include the author's name, the title of the text, as well as some opportunity to point out what type of text it is and the purpose of that text. So I know that may seem like a mouthful, but let's look at what it looks like in real time. So if you guys will see where the arrow, this opening sentence, in sex, lies, and conversation, why is it so hard for men and women to talk to each other? Linguist Deborah Tannen suggests that the problems of communication in marriage can be solved if couples learn that men and women have different styles of communication. Okay? So in this first single sentence, let me show you all that took place. We were introduced to the title of the text. So we have a clear introduction to the text. We know that this summary is about the text, which is actually, this is a book, Sex, Lies, and Conversation. Why is it so hard for men and women to talk to each other? That's the title. We then have the author. So we have here that this author is Deborah Tannen. We don't have any informal names. We don't have Deborah. We don't have Debbie. We give formal information about the text, full name. We introduce that early on. Then you guys see, do you see the word suggests? So you know how we talked Tuesday about strong verbs, how when you set up the author's main idea, when you set that up in your summary, you want to present it in such a way that could tip your reader off to what that author's purpose or intention is. So you could say, Deborah Tannen argues, Deborah Tannen explains, Deborah Tannen informs, right? But what we want to stay away from is Deborah Tannen talks about, Deborah Tannen says, Deborah Tannen states. And it's not that if you had done it that way in the past that it's wrong, but just as we're making the move to college level writing, when we use these strong verbs, it adds a level of sophistication to your writing. So it shows you have a better handle of the material. So if you walk away with anything in terms of your understanding and summary writing, know that it will begin the same way every time. Every time you start your summary, you start by introducing that text, introducing the author of that text, and then presenting the author's main idea. This opening sentence does just that. Title, author, purpose, main idea. Okay? So I know it's easier said than done, but we'll definitely get more practice with that. So after we get that first sentence in that packs a lot of information, we've just cited the entire text in this one sentence. I've cited my source. I've given their main idea. Now I'm about to go into those key points, how the author developed or supported that main idea. But again, I'm very brief. So rather than going into the text and pulling out every example or every detail that the author included, I can take a look at all of those details and I can summarize what the author's key points were, right? So here you guys see, I say Tannen notes. So again, we're staying away from Tannen says, Tannen talks about, Tannen states. We're going to make a conscious effort to use a different word. If we have to pull out our thesaurus or our dictionary thesaurus app in order to help with that, I want us to start practicing using something other than talks about, says, or states. Okay. So we say.
What about like justify? Is that right?
Oh, I like that. I like that. So, so to say that, you know, linguist Deborah Tannen justifies that problems of communication in marriage can be, that could be, if that is what she's doing, if she's kind of justifying it, right? So talking about why it is the way it is, or why this is the way it should be, then that word justifies will work well. But again, you want to match that strong verb to whatever her purpose in that text is. So if you feel like, well, maybe I'm a little bit unclear of her purpose, then I would say go with those safe, strong verbs like she examines or discusses or explores, right? So you see how now, after we've moved it past that opening statement, we talk about Tannen notes that research shows that, and here we have a summary of a key point that she made in her text. So you guys see how main idea is highlighted in yellow, main point is stated first. Then from there, we kind of break it down by the key point. So we have a key point here. One key point explored in the text is that women create intimacy in relationships through looking at one another, sharing similar problems, and interrupting in terms of communication by making supportive sounds and comments. So she makes one point here, or she identifies a key point in the text here. And now she moves on to another key point. Tannen reports that men, and here we have that point, because of their need to relate inside of a hierarchy in other same-sex relationships, they see support in a conversation as telling someone the problem isn't so bad, or looking for a solution, trying to find a way to fix it. So we have one key point, we have another key point, and then we have some summary of conclusion. So it says, you know, women, Tannen says, feels that some sort of communication as intimidating and unsympathetic. According to Tannen, so now we have the concluding thought, which again, a lot of times just reiterates or summarizes the main idea. So let's see. According to Tannen, teaching men and women each other's conversational styles can help people understand what the other person is really trying to communicate and head off misunderstandings, which can strengthen marriage relationships and prevent divorce. So we conclude by, I'm reiterating that main point, and you guys see how this directly relates to this. Her main idea is problems of communication are affecting marriages, and that people need to learn men and women have different styles of communication. So look how she concluded that, talking about the conversational styles. By learning how each other communicates, we could head off misunderstandings in order to strengthen relationships. So it's just a revisiting of the main point. But again, the formula for summary: introduction of text, author, and main point, key points, conclusion. So we can look at it, you know, similar to how we look at essay in terms of what are the parts or the structure of, you know, writing a summary. But with this knowledge, I want you guys to take a time using your notes from the text, your annotations. So whether you've been summarizing your ideas in the margins, whether you've highlighted the author's main idea, you know, whether you can kind of gather all of the information from your notes to go into your summary. I want us to take time now with this understanding to draft our own summary to the Malcolm X Learning to Read text. So before I pull up that assignment, are there any clarification questions about the example we just talked about? Are there any question marks in your head still about what are we doing when we write summary? Any concerns? How are we feeling? Should I take the silence to mean that we're good, we're ready for the assignment, or we don't know one way or the other? Okay, we're good. All right, I'll take that. All right, so let me pull up the assignment that you guys are working on. You guys can complete this whether you are writing in Google Docs, whether you are writing in Microsoft Word, but I do want you to attempt to type it, because in summary writing, in paragraph writing, there is a format that I want to see assess that students are familiar with. So let me pull up this assignment. Here it is. Just so we're clear on the instructions before I let you guys go on this. Here it is. All right, so for the next 20 minutes, Students are going to summarize in one paragraph, at least one paragraph, their understanding of the Malcolm X text. I have here on the screen a couple of the key points we just talked about. Let me remind you, always begin by introducing the text, title of text, author's full name, and type of publication in the essay, in the article, in the speech. So try to be mindful of that. You're also introducing the author's main idea. You are avoiding insignificant or irrelevant details. You are mindful that the summary is objective, so you do not include any opinion or personal judgment. And the easiest way to do that is to make sure you do not insert the pronoun I. So I, us, we, that shouldn't show up anywhere in a summary because you yourself shouldn't be present in the summary. It's only a discussion of the author's main ideas. With the summary, you guys know it's paraphrasing, so do your best to write it in your own words. Avoid building a summary just by layering quotes. If you are going to quote anything from the text, I would recommend quoting the thesis or the author's main idea, just so that you can, keep that integrity. But if you must include a quote, limit yourself to at least one quote. Okay. So let's take about 20 minutes, you guys. I'm going to kind of pause. Like I'll take my video off, but you guys can mute me. You can pull up in another window your document, your Microsoft Word or your Google Docs. And then when you are done, you will need to submit it to Brightspace. So look, really quickly, let me walk us through that. But I'll be here if you guys have any problems on the back end of that. So one way you do it is by going into that checklist, going to the summary writing exercise, clicking on that, and it'll bring you right here. Let me show you. And it'll bring you to submission. Oh man, it's showing the teacher's view. Let me change it back to the student view. So again, to submit, you would come to the checklist. You'll come right here to the summary exercise. And this is where you drop it. So you can click add your file. You can copy and paste it in here. You'll click submit. Okay, and that'll allow me to receive it on my end. All right, so our 20 minutes are about to start now. Do we have any questions before we get started? This assignment is due today in class. So if you have any concerns about whether or not you'll be able to do that, let me know now. Or if you guys have any questions, kind of reach out to me and let me know.
Wait, can you say that one more time?
I'm sorry?
I didn't hear what you just said. Can you say it one more time?
What part? Do I need to go back to what we're doing or how to
like
submit?
10 seconds. It was just like 10 seconds to just cut out.
Oh, okay. That this assignment is due today and that you guys will be submitting this today, in class. So we're going to take 20 minutes for you guys to use your notes from your annotations to write a 1-paragraph summary on Malcolm X Learning to Read. You will then submit it. So first, let's write it. And then from there, we can kind of move on. So let me again share my screen with the assignment instructions. And I'll leave this here while you guys get started. So starting at 10:15 in 20 minutes, by 10:35, 40 at the latest, we should be finished with this assignment, okay? So take about the next 20 minutes to complete and submit. All right, I'm going off video, but I will be here if you guys have any questions. All right, if you guys are still working, take a few more minutes. Let's take about 3 more minutes to finish up where we are. If you are done but haven't submitted it yet, um, let's spend these 2-3 minutes to attempt to submit onto Brightspace. But again, this assignment is due today. It's due today by the end of class. So make sure you guys are submitting as soon as you can. So we got about 2-3 more minutes. All right, you guys. At the start of this, I think we started with like about 13 students. So I've lost a few. I'm hoping that maybe um, they probably had to go offline to complete the assignment. But we are going to go ahead and attempt to move forward from this assignment. I know it was somewhat of a new exercise, summary writing. So if it felt rushed, um, forgive me with that, but it will get, as we practice this throughout the semester, it will get easier. But so far, I have one student who has submitted it on the assignment page. So how are we doing? Are we, give me to you, my notebook on. Okay, it's the only way I'm accepting the assignment, you guys, is on Brightspace. So this isn't anything that you would be emailing me, okay? So the assignment on Brightspace, it'll be open until 2 p.m. So we get out of class at noon. So if you're having trouble sending it, if you, I see where Caesar says it says error. Let me pull it back up again.
Yeah, mine said error too. I'm trying to submit it. It
All
said
right.
there was one error found in the information you submitted.
So is it that is it saved as a Microsoft Word document or a PDF document? Those are the only files you can upload.
I can show you. Let me turn my camera on. Okay, so I'm trying to submit it through here. It give us the little type, but it's saying we gotta upload a file instead of type
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So you got to upload a file. So you guys were asked to type it in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, and then from there you'll be uploading the file. So did we? Where did we type it at? Did we type it in Microsoft Word or Google Docs?
No.
If you typed it in the body, that's okay, Jamia, because you can copy and paste it. You can copy whatever you typed in that body in a Microsoft Word or a Google Docs doc, and you can just save it from there. So even if you typed it in the body of that like HTML text there, you can just copy and paste that and just attach it somewhere else and upload. Okay. So try to, and I'm glad that we are kind of learning in real time, whatever struggles that we may have with this. But I do want us to, if you're having any difficulties, we'll work through the difficulties. But this assignment will only be accepted via Brightspace. So I'm not checking my emails for this assignment. I wouldn't be going there to get this assignment. I would only be going to the assignment in Brightspace to collect this summary assignment. Okay, so it is to kind of help us get in a habit of submitting everything to Brightspace, because since we are online, when we turn in our final portfolios at the end of the semester, it will all come from documents that you submit to Brightspace. So if you write a paper and you shoot it to my email, that paper will not be viable for your portfolios, because portfolios are built within Brightspace. So it's only what documents are uploaded to Brightspace, only what you guys submit there that can then be added to portfolio at the end of the semester. And we know portfolio is 30% of our grade in the class. So I want us to get in the habit. I want us to get comfortable and practice with always, anytime there is an assignment, especially a paper assignment, we are submitting it through Brightspace, okay? So that's a little bit where my adherence to making sure you submit it on the Brightspace, that's where that's really coming from. So let me.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Rabia.
Do we have to like put our name at the top? So like.
Yeah. I definitely want you guys to put your names on it. However, when you submit it to Brightspace, it's going to still come on my end with your name, so I'll know where it came from. But yeah, go ahead and just get in the habit of always, anytime you are typing a document, putting your name up top. And we'll talk about headings, proper headings, when we get to our first paper assignment. But for now, always put your name. Yeah. All right. So again, if you guys are struggling, anybody having any trouble, right at the end of class, as we're getting out, stay after. We'll kind of talk about whatever issues you're having to make sure you guys get this submitted today before 2, because again, the assignment goes down at 2. So what do we think about this, you guys? I know we've had some practice in the past with writing summary, but this is writing a summary a specific way. So how do we do with this assignment? What do you guys think?
I don't know.
We'll see.
I feel like I did good. I don't know though.
Okay. Okay, I see Caesar said it was a little hard. I think anything that we're kind of trying new, right? Anything that we're attempting, to follow a particular format like the one we just discussed, it's going to take some adjustment. It's going to take some practice. So don't worry if you felt like, oh, that was hard. Oh, I didn't really do so well. I am going to assess it. So I'll give feedback based on what we've talked about. And then moving forward, students will know what they need to do. But this summary writing, summary assessment, it doesn't go away. It is one of the main parts of the final CRT assessment. So the critical reading test we take at the end of the semester. Not only are students answering a multiple choice test, but they're also writing an essay and a summary. So this activity is one that at the end of the semester, a student must show that they know how to, write a summary based on the particular guideline. So this is practice, and we'll practice throughout the semester. Okay. All right. With that being said, let me go back to the assignment really quickly before I put this to bed. Okay, good. So I got a couple more. I got about 6 summaries submitted so far. So good. All right, you guys, just make sure you get it into me today. All right, let's move on. But moving on from summary, but not from the text, Learning to Read by Malcolm X. So we talked at the end of Tuesday's class very briefly about how we read this text. So normally, if we were in a face-to-face class, I would tell you guys, kind of share out your annotations with me. What are some things that as you were reading really kind of stood out for you, right? But let me add some, a little bit of remix to those questions. So you guys in your summary identified main idea, support key points. So I'm going to assess your summary to see, did the student correctly identify main idea? How did they do with pinpointing key points? But what I want to know from you guys is, from the text, as you guys were reading first, what were some, in terms of your highlights or underlines, what did you guys identify as being meaningful or interesting in the text? So as you're writing, something that either you were shaking your head in agreement with, or as you were, reading your pen, you picked up your pen to kind of jot down that note. Maybe it was poignant, maybe you found it motivating. What did you guys pick up in your annotations that you could, that you identified as interesting, meaningful, that you agreed with? What did we find? Look, I have my notes right here in front of me, but you guys can just take a look at your annotations. Just let me know, what did you highlight?
I'm sorry. I highlighted. Well, I made a comment on the side to when it was just saying how he was reading and he wouldn't know like what it was. So I said he would just read without knowing the idea of the text, what was really going on. And then I said I felt as if he was jealous of Bimby.
Mm.
And then I said, who is he? And I said, I made another comment to when I said, is he jealous? I said, is he jealous or do he just look up to him?
Okay. Oh, I like that, Aisha. So your reading and your annotations is clearly marking your engagement with the text. So you're reading it and you're reacting. And the fact that you are jotting down those reactions is really useful in me seeing how you read. So you're reading between the lines. You're paying attention to either vocabulary that he's using, certain word choice, and it's prompting you to, it's something up here. Either he really looks up to Bimby, or he may be a little bit jealous of Bimby, which I think is such a good observation, because Bimby did motivate him a little bit. I don't know if that motivation was competition, right, with Bimby.
That's another thing I said.
Yeah, but we do know, whatever it may be, whether if it's that jealousy, maybe he looked up to him, maybe he saw him as a counterpart, I mean, that interaction with Bimby, it motivated him. Bimby is a part of his learning to read story, because he provided, this level of motivation. But that's good. I like that you not only read the text, but in the reading of the text, you're connecting with it. You are reading between the lines. Okay, so that's good. The annotations are really, really useful. Just from that response, I could tell a lot from what you took away with from the annotations, and where you pointed out too, Aisha, that when you had read about how he would skip the words, is that what you were talking about? And he wasn't able to kind of get that full understanding. You summarized what that description really meant. So that's good. You're summarizing and reading between the lines. So that's really useful in strengthening those reading skills. What else did you guys identify in the text as meaningful or interesting as you were reading this?
Okay, I got another one.
All right, go ahead.
I had took a quote out the text. The quote was, in the streets, I had been the most, I think it said, accurate hustler. And then I drew a question to it. I said, what does he mean by this?
Okay, now what page is that at, or what should I say paragraph? Is it, are you reading the handout, Aisha, or are you reading it from the book?
I just read it down on my paper.
Oh, okay. But when you said he
I,
made that statement, when you said he made the statement, he was a something hustler. Where did you?
okay. It's in the, I want to
Oh, I
say, the
see it. I see it.
paragraph. Yes.
Yeah, my eyes just landed on it. In the street, I have been the most articulate hustler out there. So he's saying when it came to game, when it came to how I was operating on the streets, oh, I was very articulate. He knew that language very well, so he could operate in that environment very well. But now that the environment has changed, right? Now that he's not communicating by, you know, these slick words, what I call, or my generation calls, game. He's not necessarily utilizing that to persuade or convince. Now he has to use writing. So he's like, now I have to write people. So I'm finding out I'm not as articulate in my writing as I am, you know, on the street. I'm not as, you know, I don't have a good command of language. I don't always understand everything that I read. So he recognized that now, first of all, my forum is changing, where I could go out and operate, and I could use my charisma. I could use body language to get a point across. With a letter, it has to be very clear and plain what you're attempting to say. So he was aware there were some shortcomings. So he felt there was an awareness he was inarticulate when it came to, you know, letters, these idea of letters. Good. What else, you guys? Anybody else? Let me see. I see I had a note in chat. Caesar pointed out he was so determined to get an education. Yeah, you definitely picked that up in the text. It's like, I feel that need that he felt to really get this information, to kind of gather these skills. And he was very passionate. He was very driven. And I keep coming back to this word motivation. You guys know the unit we're currently working on is education and motivation. So look, you guys did okay with the quotes. Look, there are so many quotes in this that I was really thinking you guys would hit me with all kind of quotes, but I'll go ahead and move past what you guys found interesting or meaningful from the text. And let me ask you guys this. Let me use a quote that I identified, and from there we can kind of pick up a discussion from that. So I identified a particular quote that he made when he said, pretty soon I would have quit even these motions unless I had received the motivation that I did. So with that statement, you guys, he's letting us know, had he not received a certain level of motivation, he would have been, you know, gave up on these studies or these efforts. So help me in identifying what were his motivations. Aisha already pointed out Bimby was one motivation. We know Bimby, he looked either up to Bimby or he recognized Bimby as someone who's got it, and I want what he has. Okay, so Bimby, whether he was jealous of him or however he felt, he was a source of motivation, whether he was wanted to compete with him or what, which I think it may be compete, Aisha, in that, you know, he saw the relationship too that Bimby had with Elijah Muhammad. So I think it was several things that he made him feel a way towards Bimby. So, okay, but besides Bimby, what are some other motivations you guys found in the text that really motivated him in this process of learning to read?
The letters, like the letters.
The letters. Yep. And
Like
he
noticed that he couldn't, his speech wasn't like fluent and stuff. So I figured I should probably teach myself how to. He was getting frustrated when he couldn't.
yeah. So he was getting frustrated. He definitely wanted to communicate a certain way, and he realized he was limited in that. He would be impressed by others, Bimby included, who had this command of language, right? So he had that motivation. He also, you pointed out, Rabia, the letters, and he opened up and saying, it was because of my letters that I happened to stumble upon starting to acquire some kind of homemade education. That the ability to write letters, to communicate with his spiritual advisor, and to also debate and engage with the his peers in prison. Did you guys also see the motivation he received from his peers? Did we see that in the text? Oh, hold on, I see somebody. Samantha said he was motivated by frustration because he wanted to be able to write letters. Yes, so we identified Bimby. We identified frustration, with not being able to write letters, without being able to communicate. We also know that he had a certain respect for his prison peers, his prison mates who knew how to read. They became low-key celebrities on the prison yard. Did you guys see that in the text? All right, look, am I about to be the only one excited about this text? It is not going to work. Are we all here?
Yes.
Did we all read?
Yes.
I didn't
Okay.
see that. I missed
Can I
it.
hear from more than just 2 people in this? So everybody else who read, who just spent time working on that syllabus, in terms of how you read the text, what are some things you guys are identifying in motivation?
Okay, can I?
Jaisha, I feel you, and I know you got something awesome and great to say, but I don't think it's fair for you to carry this whole entire discussion. I think your classmates, I think we need to really add and contribute a tad bit more. But I am glad, Aisha, look, we winking in
Okay.
just the overall excitement you have in reading it too, because it kind of had me a little bit excited as well. So I do appreciate that in you. But other than Aisha for this statement, do you guys notice any other motivations in the text?
The Muhammad person, Elijah
Um,
Muhammad.
He wanted to write the letters to Muhammad. Okay. What else?
I underline a quote. It's on page 19, and I believe it's the sixth paragraph, and it says, Mr. Muhammad, to whom I was writing daily, had no idea of what a new world had opened up to
I like
him
that.
to document his teachings and workings.
Yeah, I like that quote, Rabia. Let me read it again in case you guys didn't hear it. She stated, Mr. Muhammad, to whom I was writing daily, had no idea of what a new world had opened up to me through my efforts to document his teachings in books. So another way he was highly motivated was, even though he was in prison, when he would read, he felt as though he was free. It gave him a feeling as though he was in this different world. So where he talks about this new world that opened up to him, he was able to kind of escape his reality, as being in prison. He said, even though he was in prison, he also made a statement. He said, I never felt so free in my life. So a large part of his motivation in really undertaking this, this process of learning to read, he was heavily motivated by the fact that it was broadening his world where he once, only knew or cared about, the corner that he hustled on in Detroit. He now has this broader understanding. His world has opened up. He now looks at things differently. So he talked about in the book how he was, and here's a major motivation of, I was waiting on somebody to say, but let me come on back to Aisha, because Aisha, you had something that you wanted to add. So before I throw something out, let me go ahead and get your thought that you had a little while ago.
I was just gonna say how it stood out to me how once he started copying the dictionary, like once he really started writing fast and stuff, he started comparing himself to the dictionary, and then he stated it like, what did he say? He stated it saying what eventually became the entire dictionary. Then I said, I feel as if he's saying he became the dictionary instead of copying it and continually writing it. He became it.
Ooh, I like that. In a way he did, because if we looked at his process of studying the dictionary, I mean, I want you guys to keep in mind what it takes to copy the dictionary by hand. Okay.
It's like an encyclopedia.
Right. I mean, exactly. So he's copying the dictionary, starting at the letter A, page by page by hand. And then he pointed out that he was writing it on a tablet. So he's writing on a tablet because not only is he recognizing, since now I want to write these letters, not only do I need to have this vocabulary and this knowledge, but he said his handwriting was horrible too. So he's trying to work on getting the language, really building up his vocabulary, but also writing nice. So the whole idea of letters, it sparked all of this. The fact that he wanted to really communicate with his spiritual advisor and wanted to be the man on the prison yard, because he pointed out that those who were well studied, those who were well versed, those who had the vocabulary and who could participate or engage in debate, they were almost celebrities on the yard. So now he has something to aspire to. Oh, everybody listens to him when he talks. He's able to shut everybody down. He's revered due to his, command of the language. I want to do that. So he has all of these things that are stimulating him and motivating him. But what no one mentioned or brought up, which I think, Rabia, you did kind of usher us into this, but once he took himself through the language, like you pointed out, Aisha, that I like, he kind of became the dictionary, because he stated early on, he just didn't have command of the language. He didn't know every word that he would read. So he is identifying the need. Oh, I know what I need. I need to make sure I know these words. Once I know them, then I can use them. And once I know them, even when I read, I'm able to understand what I'm reading. So he identified within that first page that he isn't as articulate as he liked. He identified first page that he was driven by his letters to kind of acquire this style of learning. He identified first page that he wanted to understand what he was reading. And that need, that awareness is also a motivating factor in the rest of the text. So once he got the words, once he memorized them, not only memorized them, so not only did he write it down, did you guys see how he established a system of study? So he's not just reading the dictionary, he's then reviewing it. So he goes back and he said over and over aloud, I read to myself, I read my own handwriting. He said over and over again aloud. So not only am I writing this, but I'm also studying it, I'm reviewing it, and I'm making sure that I get it. So I like that without no other prompting than his own personal motivations, this man educated himself. And he did such an amazing job of educating himself that he was able to then go into arenas and debate with Harvard educated scholars. He was able to go into arenas and debate with, um, you know, those who have multiple degrees, who had that traditional education. So um, the motivation was there almost on every with every action that he did. He's being propelled by motivation. Did you guys see too how he always talked about how he didn't really read a lot because he didn't like the subjects in school? Did we pick up on that?
Yes. Yeah, I had compared that to once he started copying the dictionaries.
Yeah, that once he was introduced to issues and topics and subject matter that was interesting to him, he was off to the races. Once he was able to connect with what he was reading. Now, look at all that we've been learning about reading, right? We've talked about strategies, study skills, process that can help us learn, right? But it's going to be up to each of us to be motivated by that information. So whether we are motivated to get out of this class, whether we are motivated to, kind of go into our uh, fields or our programs, whether we are motivated as parents because we want to educate our children at home or siblings, right? Whatever individually motivates you, there has to be some level of motivation for you to really acquire education. For anything that we work on right now to stick, you have to be motivated in some way. So, what I like about this text in terms of connection, it wasn't until he started connecting to a greater cause. I need to learn this because I need to learn this in order to be able to do. Once he connected it to that, once he put purpose behind it, we see very clearly everything that propelled him to becoming this, not only this educated person but also an educator. He took the information he learned and he educated others as well. So I'm going to be curious to see on your summaries how many of us was able resisted the temptation to really go into all of the examples that he gave us. He gave us a lot of examples about the books that he read. He read about history. He read a lot about civilizations and empires. He read about the slave or the African American's plight, right? He's learning as he's reading that what he once understood, it was wrong. So as he's getting this new understanding, even more motivation, even more motivation. So what is an underlying thread through the 7 pages of this text is through motivation, it was able to take him through this step, through that step, and through this enduring lifelong um, relationship with learning, because it was lifelong. He always talked about the importance and significance of reading and learning more. And it's really interesting too how he ended the text, where he stated, I think he said, never in his life, never would you guess that in prison was he able to really, you know, hold on, let me see. I want to get him right. He said, I don't think anybody ever got more out of going to prison than I did. In fact, prison enabled me to study far more intensively than I would have if my life had gone differently and had I attended some college. I imagine that one of the biggest troubles with college is there are too many distractions. Look, he says too many panty ratings. So he has um, he had certain ideas, misconceptions about college too, fraternities and bula bula and all of that. Where else but in a prison could I have attacked my ignorance by being able to study intensely, sometimes as much as 15 hours a day? So I'm glad he ended with the word study, because even though the title is learning to read, he learned to read, to study, and to really take control of his own education. So look, I know I'm put this to bed for you guys. Ooh wee, y'all gonna have to inspire me just a tad bit. more. But one last question before we go out of here. What about this text reminds, if anything, reminds you of yourself or about your own educational journeys? Look, should I drop a Padlet so we can respond in a Padlet?
Could you
I feel
repeat
like
that? You can go.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mylan.
I was gonna say I feel like I connected with it more so because when I was younger, I did have a speech impediment and everything. So I feel like I had to like try to learn how to read way harder.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, I see that. Yeah, you knew that what perhaps may work for everyone else, it would be different from you. And just because I too grew up with a speech impediment, that is so true. I had to come up with devices. I had to come up with ways of attempting to avoid that stutter. So I worked it into habits and things as well. So I definitely understand that. What were you going to add, Aisha? I saw you speak up as well.
Oh, well, I could just add on to what she said because I had one growing up too. But since I grew out of around like 7th grade, and then around freshman year, I think I ended up getting my tongue pierced, and that really started.
Look, I got a bleep right when you said that. You said when you got your tongue pierced, it really started to mess with what, Aisha?
I think her microphone went out on her.
Oh no.
Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, Aisha.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, so like I had ended up getting my tongue pierced without knowing that it can affect my speech. So once I took it out, I want to say I took it out my senior year. I had to redo speech classes because I couldn't. Yes, I couldn't talk. Like I just and plus I'm tongue twisted. So
right.
Really
so yeah, so you knowing your unique situation, you then had to find ways around it, right? And
yes.
yeah, and see, that definitely motivates us, right? What else, you guys? What did anything in the text remind you of yourself or a situation you found yourself in?
Yeah, like I feel like connected to like the first sentence, because like me, like I stutter a lot, but like I'm yeah, like right now I'm kind of stuttering, but like I'm more so of a writer than like talking it out and stuff. So I just write it down versus like talking.
Yeah, and sometimes it can lead to misconceptions, because I know, because me too, I used to worry about that. And you guys know in school, your peers are so harsh and judgmental, right? So you kind of you either have to work to find ways around it, or in order to still function. And I too kind of went silent. So even though I may know the answer, even though I may want to talk, it was just the fear or anxiety that would keep me from it. So I learned and I do think that is maybe possibly why I became stronger at writing, because I preferred writing rather than, the sound of my own voice. So I can see that too. I can definitely see that as a motivator. What else? Let me see. I had something in chat. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I didn't. So anybody else see anything else that you related to or connected to in the text? And we'll end on that thought. Anybody else want to share anything that you related to or connected to in the text? I'm hoping that we all related to the fact that when we are aware that there's a need, it is up to us to really develop a plan or muster the motivation to change or improve. So what really stuck with me from this text or what I really related to, was I too had to come up with a set of study skills that helped me. I don't think everybody who goes to college at first really goes knowing exactly what to do. So when I went away to college, I was kind of, you know, on my own in terms of, okay, now you're here and you're being bombarded with all this work. How do you get it done? How do you complete it? So it was up to me. I'm motivated to be successful. And I don't know if I told you guys anything about myself growing up, but I'm originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So a huge motivating factor for me was that I did not want to go back home. So not to kind of put anything down on my hometown, but I wanted to move away. I wanted to, you know, kind of move from smaller town to larger city. So I was motivated to stay. I did not want to go back home. I did not want to get sent back home. So while I was there, even though I struggled a little bit at first, I had to come up with a plan on which I would be successful. So I related to this text, and just like Malcolm X, my motivation was failure is not an option. So I have to come up with plans. So in my freshman year in college, I came up with a plan on how I study best. I cannot be in a room with others. I cannot be talking to people, cannot have music on. I cannot have television on. I am a highly distracted person. So if anything is going on around me, it is going to take my attention away without doubt, especially if I'm studying something I don't want to study. So I came up with my own plan on I need a quiet space. I need to designate a time. So just like I punch in at a job, I punch in to my study time. And I came up with that. I also learned that it was better for me to take my classes early than later in the afternoon, because I learned that around 2 p.m. I've peaked. Reading, listening, talking, I'm almost done. So from that knowledge, I took into my own hands my schedule. So now I'm going to only schedule myself early classes. So I really connected with the text because he knew himself. He knew he wasn't well with vocabulary. He knew he didn't read very well. So he came up with a plan based on his knowledge of himself, that self-awareness that helped him. It may not work for everybody else. I know I definitely cannot copy the entire dictionary. I don't even think I would want to do that. But for Malcolm, that was a process that worked. So one thing I hope we walk away with is there is no right or wrong to our process. It's only how that process serves us or motivates us in reaching a goal, right? And he not only did he meet his goal in writing letters, he became one of the most eloquently spoken members of the Nation of Islam. So you guys see how he was talking about writing letters to Elijah Muhammad. Through his letters, through his use of vocabulary, through his command of the language, he was elevated up the ranks to becoming one of the head ministers of the Nation of Islam. So that small motivation, we see how it propelled him even further. So don't sleep on motivation. Definitely do not use it to help you, you know, kind of reach your goals. All right, I kind of got on my soapbox. Let me step down and be with our last 30 minutes. I am putting a pin in the Malcolm X text for now, but we will kind of revisit when you guys get the results of your summary. So expect on Tuesday to find out how everything with your summary. I'm going to add notes. We're going to talk about it before you guys are introduced to your paper topics. So we'll put a pin in waiting, learning to read for now. One last topic to cover before I get you guys out of here today is it really goes back to what we talked about in yesterday's class on basic essay structure. So from basic essay structure, and somebody at the start of class when we were talking about summary, they brought up, I think it was Rabia, but you guys brought up intro, body, and conclusion, right? So I want to kind of step away from summary and move back to this whole idea of essay structure and format. And when we saw that video yesterday, the YouTube video, if you guys can remember, what was an idea that was presented in that video that really sticks with you now? What is an idea that you took away from that essay basics video that we looked at yesterday. I'm sorry, Tuesday. In the discussion of intro, body, and conclusion, what do you guys remember? What stood out?
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, go ahead. Look, Aisha. What stood out from the YouTube video we watched yesterday with I don't know the gentleman's name, but where he was talking about essay structure. So he gave us a clear breakdown on the parts of the essay: intro, body, and conclusion. What about that discussion do you remember?
I remember. Oh, okay, my bad.
Go ahead, Aisha, and then I'll get whoever spoke up next.
Okay, I remember the end. You know how like the intro is just, it's supposed to be just one paragraph, but it's broke down to three parts, which is the hook, the background, and a thesis.
Oh, good. Good. So yeah, so even though it's one paragraph, there's parts within that paragraph that you want to be mindful of. Good. So you remember the intro has these three parts. It's the hook, background, and what was the last?
Thesis.
Thesis. Yes. Okay, good. Rabia, what about you? I see you as well. What do you remember from the discussion?
I wrote down in my notes, the first one, introduction. You said this one was an important one. Thesis is the last sentence in the introduction.
Oh, I'm sorry, just a little bit louder, Rabia. Look, my vision is bad, and so is my hearing, unfortunately.
I said that I wrote down in my notes the first one, introduction. You said that you said this is important, so I wrote it down. So you said the thesis is the last sentence in the introduction.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So what stuck with you also, I see you mentioned and identified thesis. You remember that the thesis should be the last sentence in the introduction. Good. All right, what else do you guys remember from that?
The body paragraph, it can be any number of paragraph, but the intro and the conclusion is only one paragraph.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, good. So from what we see, okay, I see Jamia, the conclusion, you restate your thesis. Thank you so much, Jamia. And I see too, you also remember that also important thesis. So just about everyone who spoke up, you guys, what stayed with you is this understanding of thesis. I heard Aisha bring it up in the three parts of the intro. I heard Rabia bring it up in terms of, what she understood about that intro, how the single most important sentence in your entire essay is that thesis, and how that should be introduced in the last sentence of your intro. And Jamia also pointed out how that thesis shows up again in the conclusion, and that's normally where you reiterate or summarize. But the clear connection between all of those responses is thesis. Thesis is I'll say, the caboose of the train. It is what drives your essay. So even though we look at the essay as these different parts, right? We have the intro, we have any number amount of body paragraphs, and we have a conclusion. So even though we have these different or fragmented parts, the essay as a whole operates as one, in that all of these various parts of the essay, they all are working to first identify the author's thesis or main idea, support and develop it, and then summarize and reiterate it. Every part of the essay is developing, supporting, explaining, proving the thesis statement. So as you guys are coming into this class and you're setting those goals as I want to be a stronger writer, one thing to keep in mind about writing, or even the essay writing especially, is if you can pin down or effectively construct a thesis, you can effectively construct an essay. Your thesis is the Again, single most important sentence in your essay. So with that statement, I want to take us to a handout in our Brightspace module that is going to give us a lot more information on this very important component of our writing. And not only a very important component of our writing, but also of our reading as well. You guys just saw from summary writing, you read to identify the author's main idea, AKA thesis, and to identify the key points in terms of their development of that thesis. So the very important job that the thesis holds for writing in general, whether it's your writing or your reading, I do not want us to underestimate that. So with this handout, and hold on, I'm sharing my screen, but let me download this. I think it'll show up better as a download than in this little window. So hold on, if you haven't gone in and looked at this packet, it is definitely one of those documents where, even though we may not go over every page of it, this is pertinent and required reading, okay? So if you normally just kind of peruse through the modules, I am giving you a heads up, double emphasis on take your time, go through every part of the thesis packet in order to really build your understanding, okay? So before we get out of here today, a couple of things that I want to ask you guys, and we just talked about a few. So in this idea of what are 3 things that you know about a thesis, I'm just going to plug in a few things that we learned from a quick review. One thing we know about the thesis statement, you know, in picking up on what Rabia stated, is that it's normally presented in the introduction. So if you know nothing else, know that the thesis is traditionally introduced in the intro. Now, as you guys get more sophisticated, as you move out of this class, you'll learn that you can kind of play around with placement of thesis. But for this class, before you can break the rules, you have to know the rules. So we first want to be aware that theses are generally, traditionally presented in your intro. Also like this idea that it is the last sentence of the intro. So that's one thing we've learned. We also know that the thesis is the single most important sentence in the essay. So we can add that to another thing that we know about a thesis statement. But what else do we know? Look, even though I got some stuff on the screen for you. What else do we know about a thesis? We know it's the main idea. So we can throw that too, main idea. We know that it is the statement that your body paragraphs seek to develop, support, and explain. We also know that the conclusion summarizes and reiterates it. But I want us to explore, again, how we define the thesis and how we approach it. So even though I asked the question, you know, we just reviewed what I believe we as a class know about thesis. The thesis is the basic point or main idea of the whole essay. You guys know that anytime we are reading, anytime we're writing, anytime we're talking or communicating with someone, there is always this pursuit of the point. So even in long drawn out conversation, I'm still hanging on because I'm waiting for, you know, I'm gathering information about the point, right? When we watch a film, you know, we get to the end of it because it's communicating the point or the moral of the story, right? So in communication, thesis represents that main point, right? That main idea of the text. One thing I want you guys to know about thesis statement is the thesis statement should be an assertion made. So it should not be a question. A thesis should not be a quote. A thesis should not be a fact. Look, we'll talk about that. What a thesis should be is an assertion that the writer or the author is making about a particular topic. So let me, look, I'm going to use my annotation point here to try to draw. This is going to be hard. But anytime you think of thesis, I want you to think of thesis as, uh-oh, this is horrible. I'm trying to do something fun, different. Okay, let me take this back. Let me see how to let me do this. Yeah, not working. Anyway, the thesis is the, it makes a point about the topic. So it isn't always a quote. Again, it's not a question. It isn't a fact. A thesis is an assertion. It is a point you plan to argue, support, or develop. Okay. So let's say that we are looking at this topic of learning to read, right? Learning to read itself, that may be, let's say, the title, or that may also be the topic. But what makes a point about that topic or that title is what will generally point you towards your thesis statement. So we saw in that in that text that Malcolm X stated it was when he came to write letters that he acquired this, homemade education, or went through his process of learning to read. So we have the topic, but it doesn't turn into a main idea until we attach to that topic our opinion or our idea about it. So we can talk about, let's say, the topic of texting, right? Well, the topic is just that. It's just the topic. What will drive that in an essay will be the idea that you attach to that topic. So what if I came up with the idea that texting, while useful, can be a distraction while driving? No, it's not useful while driving. Hold on, let me revise that. What if we say texting, while useful, can be a distraction in the workplace? Okay. So I took the topic of texting and I attached to it an opinion or an idea. So my idea or my opinion is that it can be a distraction. But I don't want to just say a distraction totally. I'm going to kind of narrow it to it can be a distraction in the workplace. So by me adding that information to the topic or title, I am including a point that I plan to make about it. I plan not just to talk about texting in terms of defining what it is. I plan to talk about texting not just to talk about it at length, but I plan to talk about it in specific terms. I plan to talk about texting as it relates to it being a distraction in the workplace. So that's how we move from just an idea to a thesis. We take a topic or a title, and we attach to that our controlling idea or our opinion. And that is what normally helps us to formulate our thesis statement. So I want you guys to keep in mind that a thesis, it is an opinion. It is your opinion. It is your idea about the title. And we want to make sure that we are mindful of that. So you guys see where it says a thesis is often an assertion. If I were to ask you to define assertion, what is your understanding of assertion? If someone is assertive, what are they doing? If our thesis is an assertion, what is an assertion?
I'm sorry, can you restate the question?
Where you guys see, hold on, and let me use and you see where it says a thesis is often an assertion that you argue or support in the essay. What is an assertion? If a thesis is an assertion, what do you guys understand about the word assertion? So I see Samantha added standing up for yourself. I see Caesar added a confident statement. So two things about these responses I really like. Assertion is a way to, when you say stand up for yourself, it's a way to speak for yourself, so you're speaking out, right? So you can look at an assertion as your opportunity to speak out, okay? You can look at an assertion as your voice on the topic, right? So it's your opportunity to participate in that conversation. This is your confident statement. I like that, Caesar. So an assertion is, it's a forceful and it is a confident statement. So I'm not, when we write thesis statements, we shouldn't say, I think that texting is a distraction in the workplace. I wouldn't say anything like, I believe that texting, is a distraction in the workplace. For a thesis to be an assertion, for your audience to really buy into your main idea, you want to state that thing clearly. I want to say texting is a distraction in the workplace, and whatever reasons I attach to it. But by me being assertive in my statement, it operates not only as a tool for me, in me laying out forcefully stating my main idea, but it also works as a tool for your audience. And I want us to really be mindful that when we write, we don't write for ourselves. We are writing for an audience, whether it is an imagined audience or not. Even when you guys write your posts on social media, there's an awareness that there's an audience who's reading this. I've seen people write social media posts where it's so targeted and directed. They're speaking directly to somebody. It may be in a roundabout way, but they have an audience. There's a target audience. And I want you guys to keep that same energy when we write an essay. Without knowing it, you are writing for an audience, whether that audience is your instructor, whether that audience is your peers, whether that audience is, let's say even the English department, where at the end of the semester, when we turn in our portfolios, we have a whole other audience. But I do want you guys to always be aware that there is an audience, and the main goal of an assertive thesis is that your audience knows, here is the author's point, here's what I can expect from this text, okay? So it's a confident statement. It is a forceful and clear statement. Your audience, and even you should never have to guess what is your thesis. You should never have to guess what is your main point, because it's clearly stated. It is a confident and, again, assertive statement. So, couple of things to keep in mind. We now kind of have a working definition of a thesis statement that I think we all can agree on. We kind of know the purpose or use of a thesis statement in an essay. We know that the thesis statement should be an assertion. We don't want to, diddle daddle. We don't want to say, I think, or I feel, I know. I'm stating with certainty. I am confident about my statement. So we eliminate words like I think, I believe, it might, all of those, what I call terminating statements. It just kind of terminates your point. If you think, or if it might, why should I invest in it if you yourself don't invest in it? So you want to really be mindful of how the thesis operates in the essay, not just for you, but also for your audience, and also know what it's good for. A thesis is good in helping you to narrow down a topic. We just kind of went through an exercise of that, where you can take a topic like texting, or a topic like Chicago weather, or a topic like Chicago, and you can narrow it, find your own angle or opinion on it, and the presentation of that is what, again, you would base your essay on. So a thesis is helpful in helping us to narrow down our topic. It also is helpful in letting our reader know. So it's a tool for your audience. It lets them know exactly what to look for in the essay. Why do you guys think that such a major part of our reading process is this idea of identifying the main idea? That's a huge part of the reading process, because once you can identify the author's main idea, you can better comprehend what they discuss or cover in the text. So again, it lets the reader know what to expect or look for in the essay. And a well-formed thesis is also useful for helping you to develop and cover all the parts of an assignment. It helps keep you organized, and it helps to keep you from wandering off track. How many of you know that in knowing yourself as a writer, you know that sometimes you tend to A, have trouble getting started, or B, have trouble staying on topic?
Me.
Staying on topic.
Yeah. So in identifying that in yourself, just like we learned in Malcolm X, if we know that that's something we struggle with, then we are seeing already the way I fix that is with my thesis. It's my thesis that I need to really make sure is strong and effective if I want to, stay on topic. If I want to really be clear on what my main point is, then I need to make sure my thesis is really clear. If I want to, let's say, really make sure that I'm organized with my body paragraphs, well, then I need to really make sure I'm clear on what my thesis is. So it's good for, again, helping you narrow a topic, helping your reader know what to expect. It's almost like a map for your reader. And it's also a tool for you as writer in helping you stay organized and stay on track. So these opening statements is what I want you guys to keep in mind about thesis. Tuesday, we'll talk more about constructing effective thesis statements, but with our last 10 minutes or so, I want to quickly take us through these 5 questions or thesis samples, and I want to get you guys' opinion. So we just talked about how thesis should be an assertion, right? It should be this confident statement. We also talked about the ingredients of a thesis is normally a topic plus our controlling idea, our opinion, right? So we need to know the difference between fact and opinion, okay? So we know that a fact is, something that we can identify as, either it is or it isn't. To me, a fact is something that we can establish under true or false. Either it is or it is not. However, an opinion is a little bit more entailed than a fact. An opinion will include language that really targets either the feeling or idea, behind the topic. So let's look at these 5 thesis samples, I'll call it. And I want you guys to help me in identifying, is this a statement of fact or is this a statement of opinion? Okay. So 2, we can also look at, would this be a good thesis statement? So based on what you guys know about thesis, what do we think about this first statement? Hold on, let me pull my spotlight out. What about this statement? In this essay, I will discuss abortion. Is this an assertion of a main point? Is this a thesis?
No.
No.
No. What's missing here? Just from our understanding, what is keeping this statement from checking off the boxes for thesis statement?
It seemed the sentence seemed unsure. Like you said, don't use like I believe or I think.
Okay, good. Okay, so I like that you picked up on that. It isn't an assertion. It isn't a forceful statement. So that's one I noticed. And it too, I'll say it reads like an announcement. You never want to announce your thesis. So you never want to say, in this essay, I will show you how. No, maybe we've done that previously, but for college level writing, you definitely don't want to introduce your thesis that way. So you don't want to say, in this essay, I will discuss, okay? Your, again, thesis, it needs to get rid of all the fluff. So it will either be whatever that opinion is about abortion. That's what a thesis, how it should be constructed. So what else is wrong with this statement? It's not an assertion. It reads as an announcement. What else? Is there an opinion attached to? What is the topic in this statement?
Abortion.
Do we know how the author plans to talk about abortion?
No.
Nope.
It's kind of sort of a door sentence. Like it don't give us no type of information behind it or nothing.
Right. I like that. Nothing. If I was keep in mind, a thesis is a tool for your reader. If you were a reader and you read that, what would you gauge that essay is going to talk about? I guess abortion, but if this is about to be a book, because we can talk a lot about abortion. What about abortion, right? So again, I'm left asking, okay, so what's going to be the point? Like, what about abortion? So this is a weak thesis in that it does not attach to the topic any type of idea. There is no idea attached. I don't know what the author thinks, what the author plans to discuss at all about abortion. So this is ineffective, and we kind of know why. What about this next one? Television is destroying the unity of the modern family. If you were a reader, an audience member, do you feel that this statement is assertive, and do you feel that it's useful in helping you know what this essay would discuss? Television is destroying the unity of the modern family.
Yes.
I hear yes. Good. Another way of looking at it too, is this a statement of fact or is this a statement of opinion? Because we know a thesis is generally a statement of opinion. So what do you guys think? Is this a statement of fact or is it a statement of opinion?
A fact.
I heard fact. Is there anybody who would disagree that television is destroying the unity of the modern family?
I agree.
Hold on, I got something in chat.
But it's an opinion though.
It definitely is an opinion. Yeah. So even though you notice as an audience member that you may agree with it, you're aware there may be people who disagree with this, right? And that is always that shows the great makings of a thesis statement. It normally is an opinion that can be argued or that can be developed and supported. So here we have the topic, which the topic could either be, let's say the topic is the modern family. I'm going to say that. So they're talking about here specifically about the modern family. They're talking about how the modern family is being destroyed. So there we have a topic, but we move that topic to now we have an idea about that topic. So it's not just modern family, but now I'm looking at specifically how the unity of modern family is destroyed. So maybe if I'm brainstorming this, I can start to look at what affects the unity of modern family. And in that brainstorming or through that process, this particular writer is going to talk about how television, and it could either be media, it could be anything like that, but they specifically have an idea that they are attaching to a topic that can be developed and explored and supported in an essay. Television is destroying the unity of the modern family. So this can be developed and supported. If I was a reader, I would be able to read this topic or this thesis and know what the essay is going to talk about. It's going to be discussing how television destroys the unity of the modern family. It's clear. Okay. If you were writing, let's say you were the writer. As writer, I want you guys to know how useful a thesis is. If I'm wondering about my body paragraphs, what else do I say? What else do I add? Right? This is what I always go back to. Okay, so I need to make sure I'm talking about information that proves or shows how television is destroying the unity of the modern family. I need to make sure I'm giving an example of this. I need to make sure I'm really giving explanation and logic attached to it. This keeps you as a writer on track. I don't need to think up what else I need to say. I just need to make sure I'm supporting and developing that, right? So again, it's a tool not only for the reader, but for you. All right, 2 more minutes. Let's take on one more. I'm sorry. Look, I'm trying to cherry pick which one I think can be kind of easy in getting us out of here. Let's look at this one. Number 3. In her essay, Ehrlich shows that there is a balance of community and isolation in her hometown. Okay. This one is good because in this class, you guys will be writing in response to what you've read. So here she's talking specifically about what she read, and she's attaching to it her opinion about what she read. So I like this a tad bit in that it's kind of more similar to what you guys will be doing when you write your own thesis statements. So as audience members, this last minute, you guys, do you feel if you read this statement in an essay, you are comfortable that you know what this text will discuss? So read it one more time for me. In her essay, Ehrlich shows that there is a balance of community and isolation in her hometown. What do we think? Does this work? All right, Caesar says yes. Do we agree or disagree? What do we think?
I agree.
Okay, I heard I agree. Is there anybody on the fence? Is there anybody on the fence about this one? Okay, well, okay. Or is anybody who doesn't know one way or the other? So should I just assume we all agree that this is a well useful thesis statement?
Yes.
Okay. So as audience member, if I was reading this, I would want to see how the author, I'm sorry, not the author Ehrlich here, but the author of what this essay, who's ever writing this in response to Ehrlich, I would want to see how they prove that the text is kind of showing this balance of community and isolation in a hometown. What does it say? It shows that there's a balance of community and isolation. I would want to see how the author plans to prove that. So they would want to point to parts in the text that shows how her community is this balance of together, you know, this community being together and also being isolated. So she's going to give me examples from the text that prove and support this whole idea of this balance of community and isolation. But I know this is not the author's ideas. They're showing me, well, not, it is the author's idea, but the evidence that they'll include will come directly from the text. Okay. So, all right, we are at the end of class. Here's what I want you guys to do with this packet, since it is in week 3 module. Yes, here's the homework right here, Caesar. The homework for this, finalizing this packet, will be, hold on. Now you're reading all of it, so please don't bypass the information in order to complete the assignment. But you guys will be completing exercise 4 of the thesis packet. So you guys will come here, you'll read the instructions, and that's just read, you know, take a look at these thesis statements, or no, I'm sorry, use the questions to develop a response that you can use as a thesis statement. So here where it says, how do you account for the rise of sports figures as superstars, right? So you would be responding to this statement by creating a thesis statement based on the information we've talked about. So one that gives your assertive opinion, a confident statement, one that is also can be used by the author, and one that can be used by you to develop and write an essay. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't want you guys to think that it has to be perfect, but I do want you to attempt to respond to the question by writing a thesis statement. Okay, so you're treating it as though, based on this question, I am responding by making an assertive statement. Okay, so let me give one quick example before we go. should racial profiling be legalized? Why or why not? So if I'm responding to this to write a paper, my thesis, based on what I know, it should be an assertion. I shouldn't say I think, I believe, or I might. It's going to be my ideas about racial profiling that I can support and develop. So how do I respond to this? Racial profiling should not be legalized because it incorporates stereotypes and, biases. So that includes my idea or opinion about legalizing racial profiling. And it's stated in a clear statement, an assertive and confident statement, okay? So that's what you guys are doing for homework. You're reading the packet as well as everything else in week 3 module, hopefully that you guys have been working on in your own time. But what you're coming back on Tuesday with will be your responses to these 8 questions. You're responding by creating a thesis statement. All right. Any questions on that?
Where do we like upload the
As far as uploading or submission, I understand that if I kind of don't make you guys submit it, that it may mean that you may not do it, but it's really for discussion. But I'll add it as an assignment. You guys can email this to me, so I'll add that update in the checklist. So I'll go in and add that update in the checklist. I'll add students need to complete exercise 4, email me to submit, their responses prior to Tuesday's class. So you guys will get more instruction on that. I'll add it to the checklist. Okay, but this will be emailed prior to the start of class. All right, good. I like that, Caesar. All right, if you guys have no other questions, you guys can go ahead and be dismissed for the day. I appreciate you being here today. Quite a bit of information. Work your way through week 3 module, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday.
Bye, everybody. Enjoy your
Bye.
weekend.
See you, Aisha. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.